What is your favorite color? Is it blue, red, or green? Naming a color is the easiest way to communicate color information. If you name a color, you are categorizing the color and labeling it. So color naming is color categorization and linguistic labeling. In other words, when a language has an available color name, you can at least accentuate the differences between two categories. Therefore, a usage of color naming reflects how mature a language or a culture is. For naming a color, you can be very poetic. In literature, colorful scenery is often beautifully described. Therefore, color naming is an easy but also rich communication tool. When you hear red, which red are you thinking at? The perceived color from a color name is strongly biased by individual experience, cultural context, and so on. However, some rules have been found by some psychologists in late 20th century. First of all, the rule begins with basic color name. In a certain language, you can investigate how many of color terms are available. To consider a color name as a basic color name, you need some criteria. First, it should be defined by one morpheme. Therefore, blood red is not a basic color name. Second, it should not be contained within another color. Therefore, scarlet is not a basic color name. Third, it should have a restricted usage. Blonde is therefore not a basic color name. Then, how many basic color names do you have in your language? It is said that the Eskimos have at least 28 color names to describe snow. In 1969, Berlin and Kay carried out an extensive investigation about the usage of color naming across more than 130 language groups. What they have found and concluded was that typically people in civilized culture commonly used 11 basic color names. Regarding the number 11, it is still widely accepted. Furthermore, Berlin and Kay proposed an evolution of color names. The evolution of color names corresponded to a hierarchy of basic color names, from the very basic ones toward more specific ones broken down from the previous ones. The hierarchy begins with distinction of lightness. When Berlin and Kay visited some tribes who still kept white lives, they found that the number of basic color names was far less than 11. Nevertheless, those people had at least some terms to indicate luminosity difference, for example, brighter and darker. Therefore, up to the 11 basic color names, the hierarchy is universally applicable. In many countries, the basic color names are regulated as a national standard. The standards are mainly based on basic color names. As extension, combinations of illustrative words are suggested. The illustrative words are, for example, another basic color name like yellowish red, or the illustrative words are tonal adjectives such as dark, deep, pale, bright, etc. In this way, the color namings are organized in a systemic way. The other approach is using symbolic words to describe color. You get a clear color information from olive because you have an repetitive experience of saying olive. Then what about Amazon green? Perhaps each of you think at different greens, imagining something wild or adventurous. If you are going to advertise an outdoor product in green, it might be an idea to label the color as Amazon green in order to add a special flavor. Therefore, the symbolic color naming or traditional color naming is influenced by the nature or the social context. In Korean industry standard, the frequently used symbolic color names are documented. The KS reference suggests with what color Koreans typically associate each of those symbolic colors. With regard to Koreans, color perception from color namings. With regard to Koreans, it is well known that the border between green and blue is relatively blurry in perception. Koreans have a tendency to include green within the boundary of blue. For instance, Koreans say blue mountain when we illustrate mountain covered with green forest. Very similar in Japanese case. In both languages, the green traffic light is called as blue light. Obviously, the blurry distinction between blue and green was influenced by the literary context. Also, when I say green in English, the nuance is slightly different from cho록 in Korean. In case of pink, the difference is even more dramatic. Therefore, the color names in foreign language is an arguable issue. On the other hand, for the marketing purpose, often color naming is deliberately used or expressed in foreign language in order to create ambiguous and mysterious flavor. In a survey, my research team discovered that consumers gladly would accept product color names in foreign languages, in particular when they have respect for that foreign culture. It was a cross-cultural study, and the tendency was consistently found in Korea, Japan, and in the United States. With regard to the ambiguous color naming, perhaps it is not optimal to communicate an accurate color information. Cappuccino Cosmico, Cosmic Latte, or Astronomical Almond. These are astrophysicists illustrate the color of the galaxy. Isn't it romantic? I'm convinced you can enrich your life by giving a unique color name to your valuable things.